Welcome to the 34th meeting of Junto Club. On this episode, Shu stumps us with a Benji quote that has something to do with friends, enemies, life and death. We talk about how crypto and our government are both trying to fix our roads, or at least Miami's roads. Finally, we dive into polarization in politics. We learn about how political parties were not a source of human tribalism in recent history, and we discuss how our political system might be able to function better even in the face of this relatively newfound division. For any questions, comments, or if you'd like to rant on something important to you, email juntoclubpodcast@gmail.com. This is Junto Club.
Junto Club.
Welcome to the 34th episode of the Junto Club on November 6, 2021. So this club is kind of inspired by Benjamin Franklin, who way back in the day organized a group of his friends for to create a club for mutual improvement. So they, discuss things around business, philosophy, politics, science, and the like, and he called it the Junto Club. So we're kind of doing a similar thing where most episodes, one of us will bring in a main topic we sort of read or studied a little bit about, and we'll discuss that with each other, just kind of, have some conversations about it, learn some new stuff. We also bring in miniature topics, and then Shu likes to bring in quotes that we try to analyze. So that's the Junto Club. Shu.
All right.
As per tradition, kick us off.
All right. So today's quote is, quote, "'Tis better leave for an enemy and one's death than beg of a friend in one's life," end quote, by Benjamin Franklin. Any thoughts?
So, I guess my immediate thought about it is basically just like, you don't want to change yourself to meet a certain person's wants of you to be that like you don't want to give up yourself to be someone's friend during life. It's better to just be you and have an enemy or a non-friend because you're gonna die and leave them behind anyway. I don't know.
Where'd you get that from? What made you think of that?
Well, so if you have an enemy, right? So tis better for an enemy, or tis better leave for an enemy at one's death. So so when you die, if you have an enemy, they're behind you, you're dying. Then beg of a friend in one's life. So if you need to make someone your friend by begging for them to be your friend, that's not a friend at all.
Okay, that kind of makes sense. Yeah, at first I was like, where is he coming from? But I see how you're interpreting now.
What about you, man?
So you're saying, so Mike's saying essentially it's better to die with enemies than beg for friends.
Yes. So
it's better to have enemies when you die than to beg to beg for friends during one's life.
So that's definitely not how I read it, although I can kind of see. But so so the second statement, beg of a friend in one's life. So beg of a friend, to me that was just meant begging a friend for something, or that's how I interpreted it, right?
Okay, yeah.
So basically saying begging your friends for stuff is bad. And then, so bad that it's better to leave for an enemy at one's death. Leave for an enemy. To me, that doesn't seem like leaving an enemy behind, but leaving to go see an enemy. This is the way I read it first is, it's better to say, you're going to die. So you go find your enemy. And even that's better than begging of your friends, but I don't see how those are related exactly.
Could it be tis better leave for an enemy? So I guess, I don't know. If you owe...
What what does leave for an enemy mean?
I assumed, so yeah, 'tis better leave for an enemy at one's death. I interpret that directly as literally going to like leave your place where you are to go like find your enemy. Like I imagine like you have your life's rival, right? And you realize you're about to die. So then you're just like, fuck this. I'm going to go find this guy. And I don't know, either you make up or you kill him or whatever you're going to do if you're life's enemy, you know, when you realize you're about to die. That's the impression I got.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You got two hard ones. This one's
Yeah,
too
and this
hard,
one's kind of
sure.
hard. Yeah. All right.
It is hard. So okay. So so when you die, I see where Matt's saying. So you leave for an enemy when you die. So you're going to, you're going to hell to see the guy you dueled with. And
Maybe it's to find an enemy. Like you don't have one. Leave for an enemy. Maybe someone's like, I don't want to just like sit on the bed to die, waiting to die, right? So they're like, I'm gonna just go find someone to like fight, and he'll kill me or something. Because there's there's stuff like that in the past. Just like feel like stories or examples from history where people are like, I'd rather like die in battle than just like wait to waste away on a bed.
Okay. Yeah.
And then maybe the opposite is, begging up a friend is like, I guess creating a really big burden on your friends to try to like stay alive, right? So, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, or maybe not even stay alive, but just like, so I guess like to give you purpose, right? So. Yeah,
all right, here's how I'm going to interpret this. And, it's a stretch, but I'm going to say, I think Benjamin Franklin here is saying it's better to have a noble death than a shameful life.
Okay. That's pretty good.
I'll go with it.
Yeah, I don't know if it's right, but it at least sounds nice. So.
Yeah. Sounds good. All right. And I'm not the only one that's confused about this, what he's trying to say.
Yeah, that one's a tough one.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Maybe if someone would know, they can send us an email say, hey, this is what it actually means.
One day, someone who did their PhD on Ben Franklin will call in and be like, I listened to your podcast and you got everything wrong.
As usual.
And I'll be like, you got your life wrong.
Why? Because they listen to us?
Well, one reason among many, sure. No, I was joking. Did a PhD about Benjamin Franklin.
Oh, you're talking about PhD and then Benjamin Franklin. Doing a PhD. Yeah, I got you. All right. Actually, talking about PhD, it remind me of lawyers, right? Lawyers. I just recently heard lawyers when they say something called was Doctor of Justice, like JD.
Yeah, Juris Doctor or whatever.
Yeah. Actually, in the beginning, there's no such thing as just JD. They were just 2-year school, like all very similar to technical school, very similar to college level, where instead of going to get a degree in electrical engineering or something, you just get lawyer degree, right? Then they realize the whole bar, the system, the lawyer association or something, they try to say they want to rebrand themselves, right? They say, okay, these people are going to school for I don't know, people getting MBAs or the other medical doctor, right? It has more prestige, exactly. And they say, oh, why don't we just do the same thing, right? So call it JD. So they just reinvent this JD thing. So yeah. So anyway, it's rebranding.
Talk about that success. And that doesn't just get prestige, right? The more barriers to entry they create, in general, the higher salary they'll be able to command, right? Because there's less competition, because there's less lawyers.
Yeah.
Well done, old lawyers.
Yeah. Anyway, this just when you talk about PhD, remind me of that. So.
All right, so let's get into some topics since I'm running the show today. First things first.
Okay, first thing. Are you ready for tomorrow?
Is it the marathon?
Yeah.
No, I'm not ready for tomorrow. I don't know.
The New York City Marathon. You are in New York City.
I guess I need to look up where it's going, like its path.
It's 5 boroughs, right? So you go through the whole like Central Park. You start from Staten Island and then go through Bronx on the 5 boroughs, like Staten Island, Bronx, and then Brooklyn.
How do they run from Staten Island? Staten Island to Bronx? Is there a bridge from Staten Island?
Yeah, there's a bridge. Yeah.
Well, not to Bronx, to I don't know. Let me see. So I guess I thought you could only get to. I mean, yeah, I'm going to give away that I don't know New York City that well yet, but I thought you could only get to Staten Island by ferry.
No, you can go by bus or ferry, I think. But yeah, no. Last time when I was running, we have to. So we take the ferry to the Staten Island, and we run from Staten Island to Bronx and Harlem,
Brooklyn,
or the other
to Brooklyn. By the way,
yeah, to Brooklyn, yeah.
Bronx is very different. Yeah,
I don't know my geography. So, but yeah, somewhere you cross the bridge is New York City. So anyway, including
yeah. Okay, I see it. Okay, you could do it.
So yeah, either go outside to see the running, or just don't go to any restaurants or anything. So might be hard for you to get into the city.
I just gotta hunt. I just gotta see the route and know how to avoid it.
Yeah, I mean, Matt's in the city, so unless he's just gonna like stay inside.
I mean, to be fair, that's not unheard of for me, but.
Well.
Anyway, you'll see a lot of people, spectators, stuff like that.
It's not too bad.
Yeah,
because it only kind of cuts through like half of Manhattan. So I could get to most stuff without even crossing. Like even without having to change my path, I could get to most of Manhattan without ever crossing.
Yeah, because you are in the city already. But a lot of people, if they try to go in from other boroughs, then you're gonna be paying the ass probably.
Yeah, that's probably true.
All right.
Good to know. Thanks for the hot tip.
All right. Yeah. Well, just very tangentially related, annoying big events. Did you go to the Braves parade, Shu?
No, I flew in last night, so I didn't go to the parade. Did you?
I got stuck in traffic when I was on my way to CrossFit, but I didn't actually go. So.
Oh yeah, we need to celebrate that, right? Braves.
Yeah, I was actually thinking of going to a game, but the tickets were outrageous. So.
Oh, how much?
$1,300 a seat.
Oh, and that's nothing for you, like dropping a bucket.
Oh yeah. Well, I just couldn't justify over $1,000 for a team that wasn't my team. So I was happy for Atlanta though. So.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah.
So. Yeah. You're slowly becoming an Atlanta. What do you call people from Atlanta?
I don't know, Atlanteans?
That doesn't sound right.
Yeah. I don't know.
Atlantan? No.
I mean, I have no love or hate for the Atlanta sports teams, so. But.
Yeah, that's the weird thing about Atlanta sports teams. Like, a lot of people like living in Atlanta, they don't really care about Atlanta teams. Like, you do get some people are not very passionate about it, but not as when compared to other cities like Boston or the other cities, just not very as die hard as other cities, I guess.
I think I have some theories on that. I think one of the big things is weather.
Weather.
So, yes, like I think colder cities are more fanatical about sports. So, cause it's like in Boston, like the weather it's like, hey, I don't want to go outside for 4 months a year, at least 4 months a year. And it's like, okay, so I'm going to be like really into, the Celtics or whatever is on during the month. So, I mean, it's one theory that I have. And of course it helps if you have good teams. So that's another thing is New York and Boston have historically had at least one good team. I mean, in the late 80s and 90s, Boston didn't have good teams, but they at least had one good team basically in all other eras. So, and New York has always had the Yankees. And I will say Atlanta, not like the Braves winning. I saw more people posting about Atlanta sports like on social media like this past year than basically ever before. And you also have the Atlanta United who are they won a championship a couple of years. It's like to break the curse. So
gotcha. So people Just people just want to be associated with winners, basically.
Exactly, yeah. It's association with winners, and if your city doesn't have much else to offer. So,
Like Boston.
Like Boston, shots at his hometown.
Yeah, well, I mean, Boston's a great city, but it's like in the winter, I can't stand it. So.
Oh, speaking of Boston, did you guys hear about the new mayor?
Oh, yes, it's first ever Asian woman.
Yeah, Michelle Wu. Like not first. Yeah, first ever Asian woman. Also, I think historically Boston has like almost 200 years of just white male mayors, right, or something like that.
That doesn't surprise me. Yeah.
So Michelle Wu, she just won. So it's like kind of historic a little bit. Yeah.
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 Yeah, I mean, I don't know anything I didn't hear. I didn't even realize there was a new mayoral race in Boston. I mean,
yeah, in New York City too. Now,
I heard about New York City.
Atlanta, I heard a couple of days ago too.
I heard about Eric Adams winning in New York.
But, yeah. Are you excited, Mike?
You know, he had won once he won the primary, right? Like the re-election is, what is it? You know, just kind of for theater, for show. Like,
yeah.
But do you know what excited about after he won the election though? He said he's gonna take first 3 months of his salary in Bitcoin.
Did he?
Oh, wow.
Eric Adams? No, let me see this. Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh man. Wait a minute. How much is he making a month?
New York's next mayor wants to be paid in Bitcoin. Holy shit.
I mean, New York City have been very good with finance, right? So he want New York City to be a crypto city as well. With the new, there's a lot of money putting into crypto technology and stuff like that. So yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm all for it,
but he's not the first. I would say he's not the first person to do that. He's actually, I think he was kind of inspired by Miami's mayor.
Mm-hmm.
Miami's mayor, I think he was the first person I think he did say something like that. But anyway, have you guys heard of Miami coin?
Not until this.
No.
Did you read that? The thing I posted?
Just like skimmed it. So, but you should explain it.
So basically, so it's basically Miami coin is a coin that you can buy, almost like to invest in the city. Like if you can buy the token and then the money, I think it's 30% or maybe more, like 30 or 40% of the proceeds like goes to the city, right? So actually, whenever you buy, maybe buy the Miami coin at $100, maybe $30 or $40 of them go to the Miami city, so they can use it for, I don't know, infrastructure or something like that. And a lot of people are saying, oh, this could be a new way to fund the government, right? Instead of having getting tax from other different people or to tax the rich or something, you can have people actually try to invest and have some skin in the game as well, right? To want a city to do well. So this could be a new way of funding government, basically, right? So,
but I guess I'm confused. So you spend $100 on, whatever, 100 Miami coins, and then 30 of that. So who is taking that $100 and giving 30 to the city?
So Miami coin is made by a company called. It's a startup called CT Coins, right? CT Coin basically made all this stuff in the beginning, right, to mint these coins, and then they're gonna try to do it for one city and different cities. So I think next one could be San Francisco or could be New York City, right? Since the new mayor Eric Adams is very friendly to crypto, so New York City could be the next one. So, but yeah, they are making that, but I don't know what they're gonna do with the rest of 70%. 70%. I mean, the value of your token are still in there, right? Can be basically is backed by your asset, right? So the value of this token is still there, so you can trade those tokens. So eventually, maybe the value will go up, right? So yeah.
Okay. So essentially there's like you buy 100 Miami coins for $100. They give the city $30. They keep the 70 as to back the value. And the hope is that basically your 100, like you're just hoping your 100 coins will rise in value. So
potentially, I mean, a lot of people, maybe some people buy it as a speculation, but some people was like, oh, I want to support a city, right? So, and then just the token can stay there, right? So, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you support the city by giving 70% of your money to a random company?
Not really a random company, right? You own a coin, right? You still have the token. You can sell it later, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if people willing to buy it, of course, it's like a lot of stuff you might say, oh, it could be sketchy, right? But it's just saying that it could be a new way of, if it's done right? It could be a new way to fund a company. I mean, fund a government, right? Instead of like, getting all the senators to come together to pass a bill or something, and it's very slow. You can just,
yes,
invest invest in your city, basically.
But I guess,
because right now there's no direct way for personally. If I want to invest in Atlanta, there's not really a direct way I can really do it, and this could be potentially a way that. Right.
Okay, but I guess so is that okay? I invest $100, 30 goes to the city. How is that 30 going to the city? Can you is the company going to fix potholes, or is are they handing that money? How does that work?
No. I think the company just hands the money to the city, and the city can do whatever they want with it.
That sounds just like taxes.
Exactly, it's a new way of taxing, but it's, in a way that actually you are giving your money, you want to do it, right? You want to like donation or something, but you can see, but potentially you can also but there's a potential upside for people holding the token as well if the city is doing really well, right? So there's a incentive as well. Anyway, it's just an interesting new way of doing it, but might not turn out good. But anyway, it's some there's a new thing you can try.
I guess it's a new idea. I mean, I don't necessarily object to let's figure out a way for people to support their cities in new ways. Cause I mean, I think that is a critical, would be a game changer if people could more directly be listen, I drive a road every day. That road is in it's a total piece of shit road. There's potholes everywhere. Traffic is horrible. I want to put money into that road. I think that would be cool.
Yeah.
But I don't know that this sounds like the way to do it.
I'm guessing the difference is, people speculate that they'll be able to sell the coins later and recover most of their money, or maybe even make money. So that's probably why they're going to get more people.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot more people will be willing to invest in a coin than just give the city more money, than they pay in taxes.
And you support city at the same time. I'm assuming if you sell the token, I think maybe the city will get some proceed from the sale as well if you sell it again and again. I don't know. Potentially, I'm not sure. You can always put that into the currency, right? So. Coin.
That would make it kind of like a continuous potential revenue source rather than just a one-time they sell some coins. That's it,
Sure. I mean, I guess what I would a way that I would see this as being potentially good is if I guess businesses within the city began accepting it and maybe even giving sales for the use of it. So there's sort of a constant or a pretty persistent turnover in who has what Miami coin. And I feel that would make me more comfortable in this could be a investment, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, just imagine during election, presidential election, and how much money people are spending. Donate to these candidates, and how much they spend, few $100 million every year for just campaigning. Imagine you just people just invest in America or something and then put it in the government, and the government do something with it. But I don't know.
Yes, well, I mean, a lot of those contributions, people contend,
Yeah.
are a more
Yeah,
direct
imagine
source
you
of
can,
influence.
yeah. Yeah, still, it's not, yeah, anyway. So it's just an interesting new way of maybe funding a government in the future, hopefully. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's fair.
So,
no?
All right, Miami coin. No, I'm just, Miami coin. They're selling coins to raise some money. It's crypto instead of, I don't know. You've seen things where they actually sell like those, like physical coins that are like nice and decorative, right? To me, it sounds something similar. And then some people collect them with the hopes of selling them later. Some people just want the set. I think it's basically the virtual version of that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, virtual in the future is digital, right? Everything is going to be digital anyway. So anyway, my Miami coin aside, have you guys heard of the Squid Game coin? Since we talk about Squid Game.
There's a Squid Game coin. Oh my gosh. Is it made by someone official with Squid Game, or did just some random person's like, I'm going to make a coin and call it Squid Game coin?
A random person.
So I can make another coin that says called the real Squid Game coin.
Oh yeah,
Start selling that to people.
Cryptocurrency actually is very easy to make. So anything, if you have a computer science background, it's very easy to do actually.
There's public versions, and you fork it and change the name and then call it. Yeah.
You guys never heard of it? You did not hear about it?
The Squid Game coin? No.
Yeah. So actually, I think it go from zero to like $2,000 like in a few days.
Yikes.
And a day later, it went to zero again.
It did it.
Because whoever created a coin, withdraw on the coins or something like that. It basically withdraw on the money. Basically, it's like he walk away basically with like $10 or $2 million. So it's basically a scam.
I'm stunned.
Yeah, stunned, indeed.
Yeah. So anyway, since we talked about Squid Game
I can't believe the Squid Game coin wasn't a valuable investment for those people.
It was. I think the pitch was that he gonna make a game like very similar to like a TV show or something like that, and then that's why it's called a Squid Game coin, inspired by Squid Game. So yeah. So yeah.
Ironically, people who bought the Squid Game coin now need to enter into Squid Game.
It does line up.
Yeah.
It does line up, right?
Oh, you guys both watch it, so you know the story now?
Yeah.
Okay. So, Matt, you finished last week. We talked about it. You did not finish it, so you finished the whole thing.
Finished it. Yeah.
Okay. You like it?
No, yeah, it was good. It was good. I think the ending was the ending was decent. I think maybe not quite as good as the rest of the show, but it can be hard to end stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
So I can sympathize, but
even LeBron James I think LeBron James got a lot of hate for like saying, "Oh, I don't like the end." He wasn't sure about the ending though, right?
All right. Well, spoilers alert. If you haven't finished watching Squid Game. Wait, have you not finished it?
No.
Never mind.
No, go ahead. I don't think I can watch it, so you can.
No. You got to finish it now, okay?
No, I don't have Netflix, so I'm not gonna watch it.
Bro, you have the internet, okay? It's 2021. Learn how to pirate stuff. Jesus.
All right.
Yeah. No.
So are they gonna make a sequel or no? Just like season 2 or just one season done?
I'm gonna say probably a sequel because it's set up for the potential based on the story, and it was very successful, right? So why not? They might have been wanting to do a season 2 anyway, and they're definitely going to have like the support now if they want to. So.
So is it going to be continuous? Like, because you say the ending is bad, but how can they? Like, for example, Game of Thrones, right? Everybody hate the ending, but you cannot really continue anything after that, right?
Very different. Okay, first of all, I said the ending was okay, but not like quite like I think the show is better overall, and the ending was so. Like Game of Thrones ending was terrible, right? And also there are still some relevant characters around. I don't want to spoil who dies. I think it's obvious that a lot of people will die, but not everyone dies.
Gotcha.
So minor spoiler alerts. So there are still relevant characters around who can continue, some of the plot line. And I'm going to throw out a guess that they don't, really imply through the end of the season, but there'll probably be a second Squid Game, Squid Game, right? There'll probably be a second game, right? They'll do the thing where,
let me guess. Did they kill the Asian guy?
I can't the Asian guy. Yeah. You got me for half a second there. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, whatever. On to that. Was there any other mini topics you wanted to cover?
I think that next we can. I was going to talk about another ones. No, this is good. I think. Yeah, we can go into the politics directly, I think.
Okay. All right. So today we're talking about I'm going to talk just a little bit about Why We're Polarized by Ezra Klein. I actually got a physical book.
All right.
It's a pretty interesting book. And it's, so everyone knows there's been like a lot of polarization in politics lately, right? And I mean, it's something that's been talked about the last like 20 years now. What I thought
since before we go into that, I'm sorry, backtrack. Can we talk about that? Can you explain a little bit what happened to the infrastructure bill? I think it's related to politics, maybe.
Oh,
so
yeah.
It might be a good
guess.
example. Since we're talking about polarization in politics today, I think that might be very relevant. And also, I don't know anything about the infrastructure bill, so.
Right. So the infrastructure bill, I don't remember all the details about what's in that bill versus what was in the other bill. So what just happened, relevant, time-wise, is that the infrastructure bill just passed the House. It had passed the Senate already, so it's going to go to Biden and get signed. So it's pretty much a done deal. And there's a bit of controversy because, almost all Democrats voted for it. A handful of Republicans voted for it, but there were 6 Democrats who were considered some of the most progressive voted against it because they wanted that other bill, the reconciliation bill. So for this long time, they've been trying to, coordinate that the infrastructure bill would be bipartisan. So it's something enough Republicans can support and like all the moderate Democrats are okay with, that it could get passed.
Yeah.
But then what the progressives wanted is they wanted this reconciliation bill they wanted to pass the reconciliation bill first, and they were trying to use their votes as leverage to make sure the reconciliation bill gets passed.
What's in the reconciliation bill?
The reconciliation bill was a lot more money and has a lot more stuff at like welfare and the environment and other kind of more less bipartisan, more democratic focused things, which is the reason why there's been a bunch of issues getting Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema to they're the very conservative, but Democrats, and trying to get them on board. Like Joe Manchin apparently doesn't want, I haven't been following in super detail, but the highlights are Joe Manchin doesn't really want any of the climate stuff because he's, he and his family owns like coal stuff and, so, so he doesn't want any of the climate things. So he's been trying to cut that down. Right. So there's been a lot of issues with getting the reconciliation bill, something that would actually get enough votes, right? Getting in a form that have enough votes. But apparently, apparently there's been like a pseudo agreement about a very pared down reconciliation bill. And that was enough to get, some of the progressive congressmen and congresswomen to, say, sure, we'll pass this infrastructure bill now. And we have sort of an agreement verbal that we'll be able to pass at least something with this other bill. Who really knows what will happen with the other bill, right? But this is at least some core stuff on roads and water and electricity and internet and, some other stuff. So that's the summary.
Wow.
Biden's been working on this for months now. One down. We'll see what happens to the other.
Yeah. So now, I guess the progressive is very kind of extreme end of the Democratic Party, I guess, right?
Yeah, the progressive caucus, with AOC and some of her friends.
You were saying that there's only 6 of them, right?
Well, I don't know how many you would. I don't know if they have an official group with a count, but I believe it was 6 Democrats who voted against it, is what I believe I read.
Okay.
So.
Oh wow.
But
So
that's in Congress, right? Not the Senate. Yeah. So in Congress, there's like 400 something people, not 100. So.
Okay.
Not quite as big of a chunk.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. So anyway, if anything, we're going to talk about partisanship, but if anything, this is at least a little like a very small bipartisan success. Not a big one, but a small one. So,
I feel
Well,
like
what do you mean by a bipartisan success?
I mean, it's a bill that Biden wanted and some Republicans voted for it to let it get through.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
to be
I
fair,
thought. Oh, go ahead, Mike.
well, I was just gonna say to be fair, I don't know that we've had any bipartisan like in a decade. So
Yeah, it's been a while.
Oh, I actually don't know that it's bipartisan. I thought maybe just because they're a majority, I thought they just don't care about Republicans.
Well, they have the majority in the Congress. In the Senate, it's a straight 50-50 split, which
Hmm.
is difficult. But this was the thing is, I mean, this is what they tried to do. What Biden tried to do is he wanted an infrastructure bill that's like clearly wasn't like this is the Democratic platform sort of stuff. It was supposed to be bipartisan by
Hmm.
intent, and then they were going to have a second bill that would have all the stuff that they know they're not going to get Republicans to sign up for, but they
Hmm.
just needed to convince basically the most conservative Democrats to sign up for it, and then they could get it through.
Hmm.
But like the intent was, here's a bill that we can say is like fairly bipartisan and Republicans should be able to vote for. Because things are so partisan, most Republicans are just like, it doesn't matter if this is stuff they said they wanted. You know, they're just going to be like, Democrat bill for a Democrat president, vote down. No, that's just
Yeah.
the way it is. So,
Okay.
but why is it that way? Great question. Yes. No.
Yeah.
So,
Why are we polarized? Why are we Protestant?
with that excellent professional transition, put down. So for me, the way I came across this book is honestly lately. So in my lifetime, I didn't really become politically aware until, after both of George Bush's elections. So, in 2004, I was still basically like a kid who was ignorant about politics entirely, didn't know anything beyond who my parents said they wanted to vote for. So I kind of, I think we all kind of grew up and became aware in a world where polarization was already really strong. And, and maybe it's gotten worse, but it's kind of like, isn't that just how things always are? But the answer is no. So, and not just like a little bit different. So this kind of blew my mind. So if you go back, basically before the civil rights era, the parties were super moderate in the sense, since they were mixed. There was much more variation within a party on political beliefs than between the two parties. And it was so bad that there was actually people, including like political scientists and the like, who said it's an issue how much agreement there are between the parties in the U.S. system, because they're saying it doesn't give voters a choice. Basically, they would see these two parties and they largely do the same thing. So that's like, how are they supposed to express policy preferences if there's not like a difference between two parties? So this is something people actually debated in the past that, there was not enough polarization in the past.
In the past, actually people, we have the opposite problem.
Yeah. And I was reading this and I'm like, I'm like, I can't believe what I'm reading, right?
What do you mean by in the past? Like, which time period?
Like before the civil rights era. So like, let's say in the 50s.
Okay.
Up into the 50s and 60s, from like the turn of the 20th century. Like this was like a thing where the parties there's so much large agreement. And what happens is, since most of the disagreement was within parties, by the time within a party, they had sort of incentives to like, come to a mutual agreement on stuff. And then by the time both parties did that, they weren't that far off. And it was like, okay. So, and there were some people who did point out that like, so there's actually a debate. There's some people who are like, we need parties to be more aligned with actual political preferences and like ideologies. And there are other people who are like, hey, that's a bad idea. There's an interesting quote where Mitt Romney's dad said, dogmatic ideologic parties lead to deadlock and crisis. And obviously Mitt Romney then ran a very divisive, polarizing campaign in 2012. Of course, now compared to the last two elections, it doesn't seem that bad, but up to the time, it was a very polarized, at the time it was still a very polarized campaign. So, there's sort of this debate in the past. And basically, to not go into too many details, but the crux, the main reason, apparently, is the Dixiecrats. Are you familiar with the Dixiecrats?
No.
So the Democrats who had the South. So from not long after the Civil War, up until the Civil Rights era, basically the South was like a blocked Democratic, like block. Like they always vote Democratic. And essentially, it was almost like a one-party rule system where the Democratic Party in the South was like a machine that sort of just controlled all the local stuff. And they had sort of a mutual agreement with the National Democratic Party that, was we'll go along with your national interest and you don't mess with what we're doing in the South.
What are they doing in the South?
Oppressing Black people primarily. That was a lot of what they
Slavery,
wanted to
you
do.
mean?
Well, this was post-slavery, right? But they wanted to kind of...
Post-Civil War.
Yeah, pre-Civil War, post-slavery.
Well, pre-civil rights.
Pre-civil rights.
Jim Crow era.
Right. So they were trying to enforce this stuff, which was, depending on the details of how a lawyer or judge might see it would be illegal, right? So, and I'm not trying to go into over details, but basically they kind of had this working agreement with the National Party, and that helped, create this weird system where they were very divided, because essentially the National and Broad Democratic Party was not that, otherwise didn't have that much in common with the Southern Democratic Party, but it just sort of formed that way and kind of stayed for a while. The Civil Rights era caused a shakeup where Southern Democrats were like, this is not what we want. National Democrats were like, we want to push civil rights for everyone. Southern Democrats were like, heck no. And now you've seen the switch where the South has gone largely Republican. But anyway, so from that point, after the civil rights era, there's been like a steady progress of polarization where parties started to align with ideologies, because it didn't used to be that Republicans were conservative and Democrats were liberal, or even the vice versa. Conservatives and liberals were in each party again. So now they've started to line up much harder, which creates this polarization process. And a lot of this book is talking about, it goes in a lot of stuff. It has some really interesting details about just how, we've talked about tribalism before, right? It has some interesting details about just how tribalistic people can be. They took did a study where they brought people in and asked them some questions. Okay. Then they sorted them into groups based on those questions, but it's actually entirely random. And then they, had people decide how to distribute money and in ways to, their group or other groups. In general, in these totally random groups that were actually distributed out randomly, they would make choices that would give their own group members less money, as long as it kept the other group from not getting, more money than them. So they would literally, in completely pointless groups, would hurt themselves to not see the other group that they have no issue with, do better. So, point is, the group identity in humans is very strong. So as these parties started to align with ideology, not just sort of it's not just like a club that you go to organize things. It's it aligns with your ideology and your philosophy. This group identity goes stronger. And what we've seen in the last few decades is this kind of compounds, because it's not just now political ideology. It's also, education, where you tend to live, what jobs you tend to do. All these different components of our identities are sort of starting to layer and compound on each other, right? So you have, the, rural person who goes to church and works a steady manual labor job or something like that. It can be a very prototypical Republican, conservative. And then you have the, urbanite who goes to the city and went to, a liberal college and likes to travel overseas. And that's the prototypical, Democrat.
So when you mentioned earlier, in the post-civil rights, parties start to align with a certain ideology. Now, what caused that emergence of alignment?
Well, so there were Republicans who essentially were kind of pushing back against the civil rights movement, right? So at the time, Southern Democrats who didn't like the civil rights movement kind of swapped parties. And what we saw is we started to have, I think a big part was presidential campaigns sort of running along those lines of these sort of new sort of political presidential campaigns emphasizing political ideologies, and, contrasting the difference between them and their opponent in that way. So it sort of broke this sort of, basically the story the book tells is that it's more kind of like a coincidence and a anomaly in history that we had parties that were so not polarized in the first place. And, once that sort of anomaly was broken, it's sort of inevitable that the parties would start sort of filtering and sorting in this way.
Do you have an example of that anomaly? Like what happened do you have an example of that campaign, like presidential campaign? What kind of, I guess, example of that ideology, I guess, in a way. I'm not sure if the book talk about it. Yeah.
There's lots of examples. I'm not sure. I can't think of an example exactly to speak to what you're trying to get at right now, but
Gotcha.
But yeah.
I just want to get a feel of like at that time, like what was the sentiment at that time, right? So is that because one president running, we don't want civil rights, and the other say, we want civil rights? Is that?
It wasn't that. I don't think it was presented that way, but I think it was something like that.
Okay.
But you don't have to go that far back. Like you can find Ronald Reagan talking about being compassionate towards immigrants, and you can see Bill Clinton campaigning on cutting down the budget and reforming welfare to reduce government spending and things. So you don't at that with it up to the 90s, we were seeing the polarization starting, but it still wasn't like extreme. And you don't have to go that far back to see these cases of like.
Yeah, I thought Reagan was a Republican, right? And
exactly.
He was talking about being compassionate to immigrants.
Exactly.
What kind of Republican was that?
Republicans, before the 2000s, right?
Okay.
But yeah. So anyway.
Oh, you're saying that next example of like progressively, the Republican Party was like became more like against immigration after Reagan kind of thing.
I think there used to be a more moderate view.
Okay.
And over time it's sort of been polarized. And then so you get this, so the parties start polarizing, right? And in the modern day, and this polarization starts aligning with more and more different types of identities. So you have this sort of group identity, kind of stacking up into something that's very difficult to deal with, right? Because it's a problem that sort of compounds itself, right? There's a bunch of compounding factors, right? Like media loves conflict and like the most extreme, and we can talk about social media, and it's true for social media, but it was true for, cable news before, right? Like conflict and extremism gets more views than like moderate, compromise, right? It's just more interesting. It gets more people attracted. So, the media starts feeding into this as kind of, it feeds from the polarization that's created. It becomes better for the media to do this sort of stuff, kind of polarizing coverage. And that polarizing coverage further pushes polarization of people. And it's not like
more polarization and then just, be there.
And they've done studies where it's not just like hearing hearing the other side doesn't necessarily give you a more balanced view. They studied where it's basically can trigger rebuttal, where if someone's already partisan, hearing the other side can kind of make them more partisan because they just get mad, and unless it's presented in a very like good way, right? Unless you structure it to have a really proper discussion where people are trying not to be hostile, it can just make people more hostile and be like, to look at what they're saying, they're terrible, and people will whether come up with real or rationalized arguments against what they're hearing and then become more confident in their own partisan views.
Sure. Well, I think, hearing all of this, I was actually about to ask about like, how much blame the media shares for this, which is, I think the answer is a lot. But I think we talked about tribalism like however many episodes ago. And really, like, as we've talked about, like tribalism has always sort of been a part of the culture, but it's just more a question of like, I guess like when you view your identity, there's going to be different parts of yourself that have different weight, right? And I guess like back, pre-civil rights, like probably the political party didn't have as much like weight when it came, like that's why there was sort of allowed to be mixing, because it was like, I like that. People were maybe more willing to be like, I like that candidate or I like this candidate. And maybe your views on civil rights were more like, or whatever, were more, I guess, ingrained as part of your identity. So when the political parties begin adopting those as their own, then people begin to like, okay, this political party is part of my identity now. And I think the media has like, particularly in the last 2 decades, like since we've been alive, the media has really drummed up like, you know, a political party as a like part of your identity. You know, Republicans, it's like, well, we're true Americans. You know, Democrats, like Republicans, you know, we're the progressive party. Republicans are racist. Like, so if I view myself as like vehemently anti-racist, like I want to be a Democrat. Like, or so I guess that like those types of things, I think just give heavier weight to like, you know, a political party being part of your identity. So it's just feeding on the tribalism that was always there. So,
yeah, I think that's a lot of it.
Yeah.
And I would say, you know, some things that the book mentions is that identities are much harder to change than opinions. You know, to the point where there's almost no information or candidate that's going to change your minds. You know, if that means you have to like give up or abandon your identity. Like once people really like go in with like, this is my identity, like who I am, my group, whatever, it's like, that's pretty much it, right? Like you would need something very extreme and not something that you can get in normal conversations or from normal news to actually like change their opinions and worldview. Basically, it's like too psychologically painful to be like, oh, my whole worldview was wrong. You know, you're presenting me evidence that everything I thought was true is wrong. And you know, and I've been like, you know, lied to or whatever, they're just going to reject that.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Self-protection. So, in the book, what's it called? What's the name of the book again?
Why We're Polarized.
Oh, by
Ezra Klein.
Ezra Klein. Who's the author? No, what did he do?
He's like a political journalist. He's worked for like, I think it was Vox and some other, you know, stuff. So very much like a political junkie sort of writer type, you know, probably hangs out with the 538 guy or something. He's I forget who runs that one, Nate Silver, you know, that type.
So why did you pick that this specific book?
Why did I pick it up?
Yeah.
I mean, I was at a bookstore looking around and it seemed sort of interesting because I'm like, because we all know we're super polarized, right? But again, I was kind of just like, hasn't it always been like that? And it's just been like a little worse or whatever. And then I kind of opened it up and read a little bit, just a couple pages. And he's actually a really good writer. Because I mean, so basically looking around the books, I was looking for like an interesting educational book. I mean, I read trash that's just for entertainment too. I'm not trying to be too elitist here, but this time I was like looking for something educational, interesting. And I picked up a few other on random stuff, and it doesn't take long to read until you're like, this is bullshit, right? I feel like a couple pages into a random book, you know, I'll be like, this is obviously just like spewing bullshit.
Do you have an example? I'll know it's bullshit so I can.
I don't remember. There was something related to like philosophy or history I was reading, and I'm like, the guy's just like making shit up with like no like coherent argument or evidence. He's just like saying things, and I'm like, I don't care about what you're saying. But like this was very, very quickly like is written well, but it also like cites evidence and tells like forms a good argument along with a good story. So I was like, okay,
nice, okay, cool.
But anyway, so the last thing I guess I'll mention before I stop talking about it, just lecturing about it, is, you know, so we have a sort of, I guess, in the line of like, what can we do? And, you know, if the argument of this book is, you know, the polarization's inevitable, and if anything is natural, and it was kind of our lack of polarization that was the anomaly, you know, it's not, I mean, we might be able to do things to help media not intentionally try to divide people, right? But we're still going to have a lot of polarization. And the key might be trying to reform the political system to work in a polarized environment. So the US is actually very rare in that it's a presidential system, not a parliamentary system. So like we elect a president independently who can be a different party from who runs the legislator. And, you know, basically a lot of people say, oh, this type of system is, you know, historically creates deadlock and division and causes a lot of problem. And it's kind of an anomaly that the US has had such a well-functioning democracy for so long. And now it seems lately that those people might be like, hey, see, like it's not going to work long term. Like, is the US going to go down a path where like divisiveness, sort of like undermines its entire political system? Because we have a lot of stuff in the US. The government it's not necessarily like hard rules, but it's more like decorum or like the way things are done, right? And, and we're starting to already see the breakdown of some of those political norms in effort to like secure your party's power. Because in if the two people aren't that far, then it's like, oh, we have some differences, but we're all Americans who, love America, same values, whatever, ignoring stuff in the past that agreement was often with like, large groups of people not considered Americans. But now, if with a big separation, you're like the other side is like evil and wants to destroy the country. Anything is, if that's your viewpoint, right, then anything is almost as ethically justifiable to like maintain power, such as just not
Hillary, right?
refusing
Hillary
to
Clinton
vote on a Supreme Court justice, right? Or sorry, what are you gonna say?
I was saying that Hillary Clinton, right? Whenever like Republican, that's when you talk about Hillary Clinton, that's what everybody say about her. Like the Republicans, the conservatives say, "Oh, she's evil, right? She's not gonna do something terrible, right? She's like that's why people choose Trump over her because they believe that she's evil, basically, right?"
Yeah. So then you get stuff like people just refusing to, appoint the next Supreme Court justice, hoping that in a year they'll win the election of the president, or parties, just openly gerrymandering because if it's not illegal, and they can do it to help secure, a state, why not? So we'll see, I guess, long term, if we can sort of either get to a state where we're not as polarized or get to a state where we can sort of reform the system a little bit to make it stable, or if, continued division will cause just more and more government issues. I mean, right, because now we have, government shutdowns are a semi-regular thing, right? That's not historically normal.
I mean, is the beginning and end really just like if we had term limits? Like, I feel like political party would quickly, I won't say totally disappear, but I mean, or like the polarization based on political party, I think it would drop drastically.
So here's a very interesting point. The lack of party is actually part of the problem. So what's happened is we've had less people, when I say partisan, I mean by ideology, not by party. So we have more independents now than ever before, but we also have more strong partisans. So people are less in allegiance to their party or the parties, but more allegiance to their ideology, I guess. It's more, extreme and different. And the parties used to have more influence over who is like possible can get elected and who can do what. And that actually, it was referred to as sort of almost like a peer review system. Like the party insiders, there was some corruption. It's not like the past of more moderation was not a golden age, but they filtered out extremists from grabbing power. But what we've seen is a lot of the times now people can say, even their own party, right? They say, the party insiders are the corrupt, they're the corrupt, what's the term that Bernie always,
like drain the swamp and stuff like that?
Yeah, drain the swamp. What did Bernie always call Hillary, or his supporters called like Hillary? Like, what's the term?
Incumbent? Not incumbents.
Incumbents, like what they are, but there's some term.
I don't know.
Everyone wants to be the outsider right now, right? So people are like extremist candidates are constantly like attacking those in power who are actually, elected as from the outsider position. And you're saying like, oh, they didn't fix anything, even if they've only been there for one term and it's a huge system, and that's completely unreasonable, right? But they'll be like, they haven't done anything. It's because they're corrupt and incompetent and blah, blah, blah. So, again, not that parties determining controlling who can be a candidate separate from people's ability to vote is necessarily a good thing, but it did have a moderating force in politics.
Okay. Well, I guess my thinking about it is like, yes, it's true that I feel like more and more being an outsider is like a way to grab votes and get elected. But I guess I mean, like we were talking about with the infrastructure bill, like this is a huge success getting 6 Democrats to vote against a bill put forth by a Democrat, and however many Republicans to vote for a bill put forth by a Democrat. I mean, so it's like forever it was like there are 53 Republican senators and 46 Democrat and 1 independent, and the vote was 53-47. And it was like, okay, we know the exact breakdown. Like, so I mean, I guess I mean, would that, like, I don't know, like, I agree with you, like, there's going to be ideologies that are at each other's throats, or like, that's not an easy problem to solve because of the tribalism aspect we talked about. But I guess with respect to just like making politics work better, even in the face of that, like if it's just different people showing up pretty regularly, would that help?
I don't know I mean, it could. I feel like it just depends who shows up, right? I mean, hopefully we can get to a point where, I mean, I think ideally we get to a point where people are like, yeah, I'm this party and I don't like the other party, but this bill's like a net positive, so I'll vote for it. What I think, if we get to people who are like, I'm going to do things that are net positives, regardless of, who wrote them originally or who's the president, like that's a reasonable place, because we can at least find some things that we're going to compromise and agree on and do things that are productive.
Sure.
There are definitely, people who are basically be like, I'm not going to vote for any bill that might be good while the other party has the presidency, because that makes the presidency look better. And that does hurts my party's like next election, right? Like there are people who vote and act like that. Even sometimes maybe even say things that are basically saying that. And, they're the people who there's like, if they're the ones you're bringing in, that's only going to hurt, right?
Right. Well, exactly. Well, no, I mean, my last thought on it is for like, I guess ideally, if you're like, you could only be in there 4 years and it's like your 3rd year and a bill comes up, like that is sort of like, as you say, sort of the net positive that may not be good for your party. I guess they're like, if you're running again, like, or if you don't have the opportunity to run again, you may be more willing to like defy the party versus like
take more risks.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I guess, once you remove the incentive to be elective, will people act more on just what they genuinely believe, which, I mean, I'm not saying politicians are good people necessarily, but I don't think they're inherently mostly evil, and they're mostly smarter than average, probably. So, once you've removed the poor incentives because of term limits, maybe they'll do, the right thing.
Sure. Yeah.
That seems reasonable. Yeah. So maybe like if you can only be a senator or a congressperson for like 2 years, right? Or 2 terms.
Right.
And then so you do the election once, you get elected, you do re-election once, and then like the president, then you're kind of just free to do whatever you actually want.
Sure. I guess it's just, how much the opportunities they have post, government. Like, there's questions there about like, what incentives may be available or not.
That's what I was thinking about next, is like, but how many senators have like, or Congress people have left and then gone into like an industry that they had voted, to help. And then it's like, so just because they're leaving doesn't mean all the bad incentives are gone.
Right. Yeah, and there's one thing about Lee Kuan Yew, the Singapore president, right? What he did, right? For his like ministers and stuff like that, they
pay him really well.
Yeah, pay them very well, like very equivalent to like what the industry is paying, right? So that's I'm not sure if that works for America, because America is already developed. So, but yeah. So did the book suggest any, I guess, solutions? I know you guys talk about maybe there's other stuff like bringing more people, but did the book actually like talk about solution like to polarization?
Not a lot, and I haven't 100% finished it still, though I've read like 80 to 90%. But I think, and the author was straight up basically saying like, I don't have he can't present like a perfect solution, right? He's like, you have these books that talk in depth about these complex problems, and then they try to be like, oh, and here's how you fix it, 1, 2, 3, very easy. Yeah. There is no just simple solution. And I think the thing is more about changing the system to work while polarization exists over, is going to be the main thing. So changing, and this might be things like changing the filibuster or, you know, outlawing gerrymandering, you know, stuff like, you know, things that can allow basically policy to go forward and not let like a partisan, you know, minority just like disrupt the whole system and, you know, bring it down.
But it's hard to change. No solution, kind of hard, right? Because the people, the politicians, you want the polarized politician want to change the system. It's, you know, they are in the system already. How there's no incentive for them to change it in a way, right? They are polarized already, and you want it's kind of impractical for these polarized people to make themselves less polarized, right? So.
No, that's true. Well, the hope is, you know, at some point, if something's used against both parties, right? Maybe they'll say, "Oh, yeah," they'll be able to agree and be like, "This is shit. Why don't we change it?" You know, with the hope that when they're in power next time,
an enemy, maybe a China or something.
Yeah, well, that's also a great way to, you know, get alignment, right? Have a common enemy.
So what about other countries? Like, did the book talk about other countries, comparing the U.S. polarization to other countries? Now, I'm curious, are other countries polarized too or no?
Yes. I mean, in some ways more. Like, I mean, if you go to, I know at least some European countries have like actual socialist parties, right? That get, you know, not majorities, but like seats in, you know, their parliament. And then on the other side, they might have like, you know, almost fascists on the other side, right? So if anything, I think historically the US has been unusually narrow in the amount of like views and acceptable political party representation.
Oh, because we only have two parties, right? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, but when you have a parliamentary system that allows for multiple, more than two parties, and then the way to get power in that system is to make like a, you know, it starts with a C when multiple people group up. I'm blanking on the word again.
Wow.
Coalition. They make coalitions between these smaller parties to try to get a majority to run. It's kind of a system that, you know, encourages compromise, even though, you know, the individuals might be polarized.
Oh, and that's what that means, because I always hear like European or Israel, when they do election, they need to form a coalition government. I always confused, like, what the heck does that mean?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not an expert in parliamentary systems of government or anything, but I think the basic idea is, they have their various parties. They may have like, say, 4 or 5 big players, and if 3 of them can agree and they get a majority, and then they can elect the leader of the parliament or whatever, their president or whatever, prime minister, whatever they call it in their country. You know, and then they sort of have the control to do what they want to some degree.
So they are actually more polarized sometimes.
Could be more polarized, but if they have a system that allows things to go forward despite that, then it's not as bad. But
so why did you? Yeah, go ahead.
But I think, I mean, our system, we have a very much like a checks and balances system, which has the advantages, but also seems to have a lot of cases of, you know, the ability for a small group to just sort of throw a grenade into the whole system, right? And just kind of like break it.
Yeah.
Because, you know, is it a check or is it like a grenade that they're chunking in to just like screw things over, right? Like,
so you say that, you know, the European country, they have these multiple parties, more than 2 parties. They could be like more polarized than US. But earlier you also say like lack of parties like in the US is also, you know, contributing factor to polarization.
Yeah,
right?
So not lack of number of parties, but lack of, I guess, party control and party identity. So it wasn't that we've changed the number of parties the U.S. has. We have 2 functioning real parties, and we've had minor parties that are relevant for years, decades.
Okay.
But the idea is that the people running the parties sort of have less power, and people are less associated with the parties. And again, there was issues with that too. But it did moderate, in some sense, some of the system. But I think a big part of this was, you know, people kind of look back on the golden age of nonpartisan politics, and it had a lot of issues on its own. So it's not necessarily that we even want to go back to the way it was, right? Just we need to deal with what is likely going to be from here on out. Like, this is probably much closer to what's going to be long term than, you know, what it was like in the 50s.
Gotcha. Cool. So fundamentally, I guess we are assuming polarization is bad for government, but is it really bad for government?
That's, like I said, that's what some people argued, because doesn't a clear polarized party give voters a clear choice when they're trying to make a decision, right, on who to vote for? I think the answer is a lot of that depends on how the government runs.
Okay. But what about people? Like, we're assuming that why Americans are very polarized right now, but we're assuming polarization is bad, right? That people are polarized, that's a bad thing. But is it really bad?
Oh, for individuals?
Yeah, for the country, for the American people, like just not the government, like people are polarized, right?
In a sense, polarization is almost inevitable if, one, someone's active and involved with politics, right? Like they learn about it and care about it.
Yeah.
And two, there's a sort of the Overton window. Are you familiar with that term? Like the range of acceptable. It's basically the range of acceptable ideas. So people talk about expanding it or shifting it left or right. So, if the range of acceptable ideas is too small, then even if you're involved, it doesn't matter because everyone's going to be close enough, right? If you allow for a wide amount of views in politics and people care, they're going to end up polarized. I think it's inevitable, right? Because you're going to have people who care and are see the world very differently. So again, I agree. And it doesn't have to be bad. And in some ways it can be good, but it's dangerous, I guess is the way to put it, or tricky.
Okay.
And
so, going back to the Romney's dad's quote, the dogmatic ideologic parties lead to deadlock and crisis. Now, did he offer any reasons why he thinks that way?
There weren't. It didn't have his full, explanation. I think it was just sort of his prediction, which I think is, I would say has obviously come true, right? So this was this was in a time when he made this quote when people were advocating for more polarization because the parties were too similar.
Oh,
and he's like, hey, this because this is not like when his son was running for president or something. This is like way far long ago. So
he's just offering a different view, kind of.
Yeah, because there were people at that time who are like, hey, a highly polarized, political system has issues as well.
Gotcha. But personally, I feel like polarization actually as you say earlier, it make the polity actually more interesting at least to me, right? It's like, oh, these people are doing crazy stuff. Yeah, and they say crazy things, but it's kind of interesting. Fun to follow.
Yeah. I mean, in current, like in the modern politics, right? Like, I feel like you're either partisan, polarized, or you don't care. Like, it's very hard to be like, I'm in the middle, the true middle of the two parties right now, right? Because they are very clearly, distinctly different. So, like, unless you just don't care about most of the things that are discussed in politics, right? Like, if you don't care, then you're like, whatever. But unless, if you actually care and get involved, it seems almost irrational to not be partisan at this point, right?
Yeah. Speaking of polarization, have you guys seen the Taiwan parliament when they are in session? The Taiwanese government when they are in session in the parliament?
No.
You guys never seen it?
I feel like was this the parliament where there were like fist fights?
Exactly.
Oh, I might have seen clips of that.
Yeah. So compared to that, I feel like American parliament is pretty much very, very boring. Pretty tame.
Because we don't have actual fights.
Yeah, fist fights, right? And people was like yelling at each other, like fighting, fist fights at each other.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I mean, I guess I'm trying to think about a little bit what Matt said about I get if you're heavily involved in politics, you think about it a lot. I can see how if you're regularly discussing it with people, how you basically need to choose a side because that's just sort of that's just the way it sort of is right now. But I mean, certainly like the ideas the parties represent, you can pick and choose between them.
That's true.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess I guess you're right that like if you're involved, it's very hard not to just pick a side because that's what people expect of you. And it takes sort of an apathy toward like it takes it like if you're not going to choose a side and you're going to try the discussion, it pretty much won't work because as soon as you identify your first, like this is what I think about whatever, like that immediately like pigeonholes you according to like most of the people in the discussion. But I guess it's not necessarily about like, I guess it's more about like you need to pick a side if you're going to be part of the discussion at this point, more so than like you need to pick a side to care.
And people aren't expert, like people aren't and can't be experts on everything, right? So what I think happens with a lot of people is they might have one or two issues they care about. They find the people who say what they agree with, say what they like about that. And then they say, oh, you're someone who makes sense. You know, you're smart. I like what you say. I'm going to now take your views on other issues I don't know anything about and just like take that as like the truth and sort of adopt that as my own views because people can't be experts on everything, right? It's literally impossible. So politicians and parties exist to sort of like approximate this. So that's not a wrong thing to do. It's just what people do. And then it helps contribute to, you know, the large polarization.
Right. No. I mean, we're back to tribalism because that's sort of why humans are tribal, because you have, you know, you're experts in this and it's like you're experts in whatever else. And basically the idea is, yes, that like, you know, one or two things or believe one or two things and you seek out the people in your tribe to help inform you about things you're less familiar with. So,
all right, we want to wait for Shu to get back or?
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know where, I guess were there any more Discutto? Here he comes.
I was just going to say kind of one last point, I guess. So beyond the whole like revising the government to, you know, work better with polarized parties, I think the other thing I took, and, you know, maybe it's in the very last bit of the last chapter I haven't gone to, but, you know, for me, what I took away from this book is that it's really the group identity is really one of the key points. And if I was going to have a discussion with someone who disagreed with me on stuff, I would do the way I would try to approach it based on this book is try to avoid making it something about their identity entirely, right? Try to avoid, you know, associating with any sort of like, you know, things that align, any identities that tend to align with the parties, and instead try to like look for a common identity to discuss it as like the framework, right? You know, so you can be like, you know, we Americans love freedom, and this is why XYZ policy actually maximizes freedom. Because there's things where both sides say this is what, like, we, you know, this is more freedom, right? You know, or something like that. That's a very trivial example, but, you know, if you can basically, if you get into the identity trap, like arguing about not as much the policy, but like once you're, if what you're saying, whether it is intentionally presented or felt as like an attack on their identity, you're never going to get anywhere. Right. So like, that's like if you're trying to have a discussion in a partisan polarized environment, that's like if you're trying to have a productive discussion, that's the number one thing to do. Of course, nowadays, because of this, most political parties focus more on turning out their base over winning the moderates in the middle and the swing voters, because there's not that many of them left. But, so they don't worry about trying to have discussions in that sense. They actually go the opposite way to, you know, activate the group identity of their party members to say like, oh, you know, you're under threat or you got to support us winning or whatever. So then, because that actually helps get people out to vote more. But
yeah, you're either against Trump or for Trump, right?
Yes. If you vote, you have to vote either against or for Trump. That is a true statement.
So you say attacking other people's identity. Do you have an example of like attacking other people's identity when you're talking to someone? Like,
you know, like if you just say Republicans are racist, right? You're going to shut down the discussion with any Republican right away. You know.
Okay.
And a lot of this, I mean, there can be like nuanced topics of like a policy that, you know, people might talk about voter ID stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, you know, is this a way to, you know, deal with, you know, illegal voting? Does illegal voting happen a lot? Does it disproportionately impact minorities? These are, you know, just put all that stuff aside, but it's not super clear cut, right? Like it's a little bit complicated.
Yeah.
But if you come at it, you're like, we need to, we can't have voter ID because that's just racist and Republicans only use it to like suppress minority voting. You're never going to get a Republican or a conservative to go along with you. They're just going to be like, fuck you. Like, that's not what we're doing. If you say, well, there's not that much evidence for, if you can try to frame it in a different way, doesn't attack their identity or their group, you might be able to get them to go along with it, right? If you can say, there's not really evidence that voter fraud happens that much, this just adds a cost. And then you maybe frame it as like big government, regulating more, gathering info on you, maybe, kind of put it in sort of a framework that they tend to agree with, might be more productive.
Gotcha. Yeah. Unlike Benjamin Franklin suggested, using Socratic method, just keep asking questions, Yeah.
Well, I think in a way that's something the Socratic method does, right? It avoids making an attack or, calling on their group identities. It lets them sort of
start questioning themselves.
Yeah, it kind of lets them lead the way. And I think what the Socratic method does is allow you to view arguments from within their framework, right? If you just keep asking them questions, then they get to talk from how they perceive things. And then you can think and continue to ask questions from that framework.
Yeah.
So that in a way, you're not threatening, their identity. You're just going along with it and saying, well, if Republicans, you say freedom is the most, one of the most important things. Well, is this really maximizing freedom or is this not?
Yeah. All right. Last question. Are you polarized?
Yes, probably less than, I'd like to say less than most, but obviously because
in what way?
I'm involved in politics, thus I am polarized.
In what way though? In what way?
I'm very pro-capitalist.
Pro-capitalist.
Yeah.
Anti-socialist.
Anti-socialist, protectionist too. So this isn't just a far left thing. You got the protectionist on the right who are like, got to keep the made in America jobs and, tariffs and stuff.
Gotcha.
I always want to tell them, like, why do you hate capitalism and the free market? That's what you say you like. And try to explain the benefits. But, trying to get into the benefits of something like free trade is complex. So it's easier just to be like, why do you hate capitalism?
Okay. All right. What about you, Mike?
Right. Well, no, of course I'm polar. We're all tribal, right? That's the whole point of this. It's just, I don't necessarily and maybe it's because there is part of me that's relatively I've gotten to a point, I guess, of apathy towards politics because it's just sort of like, as Matt said, it's sort of like you either need to pick a side or you need to just be apathetic. So it's like, I guess I choose apathy just because, because there are parts of my identity that I strongly agree with, I guess, on both sides. So, and yeah, so it's sort of hard for me to engage in any type, if it's a discussion about, speech or something like that, I have strong opinions, but it's if, someone if a Democrat were to want to have that discussion with me, then they would be like, oh, you're just a racist Republican. Where if it's things like abortion or something like that, I'm very liberal on something like that. So it's yeah. So it's just sort of okay, I try to think about what might help with the polarization, but I don't know what will, other than maybe term limits and finding some way to not allow for negative incentives after people get out of politics. But that's, obviously a difficult problem. So
yeah, getting senators to vote that they can't make money off their senatorship is going to be difficult.
Yeah.
So it's funny. I would say I think there are a lot of people, maybe even the majority of Americans are closer to you, but they're not the majority of voters, right? So when it comes to voters, people who are still sort of in the middle swing are becoming a rare dying breed. But then you still have a lot of people who are just apathetic and don't care about politics, sometimes turned off because of the divisive polarization. And, so there's a lot of them. But you voted, right, in the last election?
I actually did, yeah.
Yeah, so being a kind of in the middle and voting, you're a very rare person, Mike.
And to be fair, I mean, the last election we had, 150 something million voters. So that's, I mean,
we had a very high turnout in the last one, but
you know why?
Divisiveness.
Exactly. Either you're for Trump or against Trump.
That's right.
So, plus, I mean, mail-in was made. I feel like mail-in became a new, more popular. Like, I mean, before I felt like mail-ins were like a very small minority of votes, and now.
Sorry, you mean fraud voting was a very small minority of votes.
Yeah. So what I meant is
kidding.
75 million dead people voted, and so
yeah.
No, but yeah, I mean, I guess it's, and it wasn't like I was voting because I'm like, oh, this is like, I was one of the few people who maybe felt like there were so many people who like took the picture, you know, I voted and, you know, like everyone needs to get out there. I mean, I was just like, okay, yeah, I'll do it. Like, it's like, it's 10 minutes. It's not a big deal, but so that's the attitude more people need to have.
Well, I mean, for a lot of people, it's not 10 minutes, not a big deal.
Yeah.
But
well, that is fair because they wait hours in line, and yes.
Yeah. But. Is that, you know, polarizing topic? Is that intentional to try to suppress votes in certain areas or not? Blah, blah, blah.
Absolutely.
But, you know, we were all living in, you know, Georgia. So we got the excitement of being a key swing state rather than the normal boredom of like, oh, I'm voting in one of the most like heavy weighted one side states. So it's totally like a meaningless that I vote. But
yeah, I voted in Massachusetts, so my vote actually
you didn't?
Yeah.
Well, you've been in Georgia for years.
Well, but I was in Massachusetts at the time, and
are you registered?
I'm actually not
voter. Yeah. Voter fraud. Oh my God. I'm reporting this. Give me writing this down. Michael. No.
No, but, no, because I basically, I'm not registered anywhere anymore because I changed my license to Georgia and I haven't registered in Georgia. But yeah, I was in Massachusetts for a while.
That's right. You weren't just there visiting for a week. You were living there for a little bit.
Yeah, I was there for like a year by the time.
Sorry, I forgot about that. Yeah. Never mind. I'll retract my voter fraud allegation.
Yes. So
you are unregistered citizen.
Yes. Yeah. Now, I didn't vote whenever, like Tuesday or whenever the last election was. So
the system's really not made for people who move regularly. It's quite a pain.
Yeah. No, I mean, I should have when I got my license here again, just like registered, but I was.
Yeah, I mean, a vote in Georgia is much more important than a vote in Massachusetts, right?
Yes. Well, I mean, in Massachusetts, I mean, particularly for the president, right? I mean, Massachusetts always goes Democrat for the president.
Well, you could have voted for the Michelle Wu, whoever the lady in Boston, the one.
Well, I was never a resident of Boston, so.
Oh, got you.
Yeah.
But you claim to be from Boston.
Yes, so I was from the burbs, so I could have voted for some, like selectmen or something. I don't know.
All right, cool. Anyway, that's cool. That's I think that was a pretty good enlightenment on the polarization of the Americans. Nice.
Yeah, it's a surprisingly interesting to read book for. I mean, it's a topic that doesn't jump out as like exciting, right? But it's got a lot of good stories and, like I said, written well. So if you liked what you hear, you could buy it or pirate it, whatever. I'm not going to tell you what to do.
No, you should check out Libby, and then Libby's an app, the library. You can check it out for free and read it on your app, on your whatever phone or iPad.
But can I buy Libby coin anywhere? That's what I want to know.
Not yet. Not
yet. Okay. Okay.
That's a good idea, actually. Support a library.
Yeah. I should make a Tesla coin. Has Tesla made its own coin?
Probably.
Not yet.
If I just made a coin called Tesla, are they going to sue me?
I don't think so.
Because I'm pretty sure I could just call it Tesla coin and people would invest like a shit
ton of
money,
Tesla might
right?
be trademarked already, so...
Yeah. You just need to try to trademark whatever the parent company of like Elon Musk's companies are going, like eventually when he makes a parent company like Facebook is doing, like you just like because the people who had Meta trademarked, they're like, just pay. Yeah, you can have Meta as your company name. Just pay us like $20 million. Like, so you just need to figure out what the next parent company name is.
Speaking of Tesla coin, did you guys buy any Floki Inu?
Floki Inu?
Yeah.
Is that a coin or an?
There's a coin. Do you know who's that coin?
Who's that?
That's Elon Musk's dog, Floki. Because he was Doge, right? It's really Doge.
Yeah.
Okay. I know you're an advocate for crypto, but you have to admit most of these random coins for random stuff are scams, right? People just hope others buy in so they can make some money, and then people are left having paid for these worthless cryptocurrencies.
So Squid Game that was a scam, but Dogecoin is a kind of meme. It's became a meme coin now. You know, you have enough people buying. The other one is like recently getting really big. Is the Shiba Inu, right?
Yeah.
Instead of Floki Inu, is Shiba Inu.
Shiba Inu's the dog from Doge. Like they just were like,
yeah. Exactly.
Well, they literally call that like the Doge killer or something.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
So it's
did you guys not hear like one guy like put like $8,000 into it like in the very beginning, and right now it's worth like $2 billion.
His coins?
Yeah, so he became a billionaire by just
hold on. Has he sold those coins? Because he ain't become shit until he sells them.
Yeah, he haven't sold it, but he has moved these like all coins into different wallets. Like especially kind of divide them into different wallets.
But
I
it's
don't know
the
why.
same coin? Did he diversify it to different types of coins?
No, not yet. He haven't
then
sold
he ain't
yet.
got shit. I don't care about his wealth. He should be able to make a lot of money. I would be surprised if he came out with $1 billion once he started trying to sell it.
Right. Yeah. Because he must own a massive amount of that market. So.
Exactly. Yeah.
So actually being able to liquidate that and not just crash the price. Gonna be tough.
I'm not sure. Yeah,
he could get a couple $100 million, I bet, though, which is ridiculous.
It's still ridiculous. I mean, yeah, he should be able to get a lot of money off of it, but that much. I mean, he should be constantly selling like a little bit, you know, that's what he should be doing.
Right. Yeah. Just make sure to get like just for a week, like literally like a week's work, just sell like $5 to $10 million a day. Like you could be worth like make 50 million a week until you have that $1 billion.
The problem is are there $5 to $10 million of, you know, investors in this meme currency? Because if not,
there are. There are
in this specific one. I know in the ecosystem, but you got to remember there are now thousands of these.
I feel like I haven't been on cryptocurrency Twitter recently, but there is a lot of transactions going on in meme cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
Stuff.
Trading. Yeah.
So
that's why Shiba Inu is going up.
Oh my gosh. You know, whatever. When are you going to buy one of these, you know, get in early like one of these people? Shu, you're in the loop on this stuff.
Well, that's why I'm trying to keep it in the loop. Maybe one day I will.
Yeah.
One day you'll see one that's like really cheap, but you're like, I think this is going to be another, you know, winner.
Yeah. So, I mean, as long as you don't, this is for fun, right? It's not like, you know, it's not like, it's gambling, right? For me, it's like just fun to pay attention to it. You know, just put some $50 into it. If I lose everything, doesn't really matter. Right. So anyway, just having fun with it. And then basically, you know, also try to understand it a little bit. It's kind of interesting, like why people do it, right? And then what's also there's some also legit like crypto stuff that it's good to pay attention to. So that's why next podcast we're gonna talk about Ethereum. Yes. So I'm gonna send you, instead of like talking about like what it is, I'm gonna send you guys the white paper. So basically there are 3 papers I'm gonna send you to guys, send it to you guys. It's not research papers, right? You read a lot of research paper previously, you know, in PhD. So this is just 3 papers, and then we just can talk about it and then see what you guys think.
I'm down with that.
So these are more like they talk about the fundamental and how they design it, the ideas, right? So these are going back to the fundamentals, see if you see the fundamental core ideas are good or bad. So I think that might be good for. Also, I think I think you guys are better than me, understand these like technical like detail stuff. So that's why I rely on you guys to talk about it next time.
Okay, Ethereum. Yeah.
So we're gonna talk about Bitcoin. I gotta send you the Bitcoin white paper, Ethereum white paper, and also Solana white paper. So these are 3 papers. These are 3 big blockchains right now. So biggest, I think. Yeah.
Sounds good.
All right.
Cool.
All right. Well, until next time.
Next time we'll learn how to actually make money.
Yeah, exactly.
Junto Club.